Hey friends, you are crafting with Kim Byers at the Celebration Shop, and today we are going to use our Cricut mug press and mason jars to make some darling Teacher Appreciation Day gifts. So I'm really excited about a new way to use my Cricut mug press. I love making mugs, gifts, and all those kinds of things, but this is going to be something else that I can put in my mug press. And I'm going to put links down below to everything that we use here today in case you have any questions or you want to grab some of these for yourself. And so we're going to hop over to Cricut Design Space. I'll show you what we're doing there, and then we'll go over to the craft table and we'll put it all together. And we are actually going to make two types of mason jars today. So we're going to use our Cricut mug press for both, but we are going to use Infusible ink, which is the traditional Cricut product that you use with the mug press. And then we are also going to use Sublimation. So for those of you who don't know what that is, it's basically where you print a design, you just print it out on a piece of paper, a special paper, and then you apply it to your mug or your mason jar, which we're doing today. So this is going to be two ways that you can use your Cricut mug press, Infusible ink, and Sublimation. And I have a video on how to convert an inkjet printer to Sublimation if you're interested in doing that and you haven't done it yet. Okay guys, so let's get going. Okay, so here we are in Cricut Design Space, and I'm going to start out with the Sublimation design, and then we're going to quickly move over and do the Infusible ink designs. One of the things I love about Cricut is that you have all these numbers of images that you can work with and you can modify those. So if you are not a graphic designer, you're going to be able to go in and pick this image. For instance, I searched teacher and I just pulled in some images that I liked. And now I can modify this to be for our school counselor. And I could modify this one that is all about the teacher for the coach. So what you need to do, or what you need to know to do, is to be able to go in, and I'll put up above the links to the contour tool video and that type of thing so that you can make these changes. But if you look over into layers, you'll see that it's two different cuts. My contour tool is not going to show up when I'm clicked on more than one cut. So what I want to do is I want to click on the one that says teacher, and then if I don't want the little puzzle piece, I'm just going to turn the whole thing off, and then I can go into text and get a font and type in counselor. I can add her name to the bottom. I did add a pencil to it because I wanted it to be somewhat proportionate. And then I thought, you know what, it's an apple, right? But it's missing the little piece of the apple. So I went and grabbed that off of a different apple in images. Here's the thing I love about Sublimation. I don't have to have yellow and pink and green and black and brown to be able to make this design. I simply need paper. And then I can print that off with my Sublimation printer and then add that to my substrate. And then I went over and grabbed another one, and I don't want it to say teacher, right? Because this is for my counselor. I'm going to put this on the opposite side of that mason jar. But the cool thing is it's not going to print out. I'm not going to have to use a pen. I'm simply going to change my colors, eliminate my cuts. This is actually a card. And then I am going to print that, and I can just cut off that piece of the printer paper. Same thing here with the coach. So I went in with my contour tool and eliminated the items that I did not want. If you look here, so with the basic cut, I can go into contour and eliminate the word teacher. And again, there I'll have a video up top so you can learn how to do that. It's really simple. And then I can turn off any of these elements that I don't want. Right? And then I can go in and add a clipboard. This is for our cross-country coach. So I'm going to, put the little winged feet here. And then I changed it from erased to measured, right? Because in track, everything is measured. So you can personalize these and add any color you want that you don't necessarily have HTV for, and still make this. So just like before, what we want to do is I'm going to go ahead and eliminate all of these things that we're not working with. I'm just going to turn those off. Okay, and so these are the three that I am working with. I've already measured my mason jar, and if you have not done this before, this is the way it works. You click on this grouping. If it's not all grouped together, then you want to group it. So like for instance, if I ungrouped that, you see all these individual pieces. I can just pull over the top of those and group them. Now, once I've grouped them, they're together. I can move them all around, but they're not necessarily going to go to the same mat, right? So what you have to do is you need to go in and turn them to print then cut, and that's where you do this up here. I've already done that because before they were cut, it's basic, but you just want to make sure that you have them identified as print then cut. And then the last thing you want to do is hit flatten. And so now you see it went from all of this multitude of cuts or even print then cuts, different elements, and now it's one print then cut because you flattened it. Okay, so you can undo that if you realize you messed something up, but now it's just one piece, so it's going to go to the mat together. And then we're going to do the same thing to this whole section. So it's already flattened. Okay, because I had done that before, and then this one as well, it's already flattened. And all of these other elements that you see over here, these are literally the things that we turned off. Okay, so now that I have those, they're all sized appropriately. What I want to do at this point is I want to send them to mat. Okay, so now we're on the mat, and you can see that all of these items are going to print on one sheet. So if you want to make more than one of these gifts for other people, I mean, you could duplicate, you know, World's Best Teacher, that kind of thing. Just remember, you are using your ink. This one is personalized. If you have more than one coach, you could do more than one of these, or you could change the color palette if it's a male coach versus a female. I'm actually making this one for myself. It's terrible, right? But I was thinking about making it for another coach on our team as well. If she likes it, I think I'll make her one too. Okay, so what we are going to go ahead and do then is mirror this. We want to mirror all of our designs when we're doing sublimation, okay? And so now we're going to hit continue. And it's trying to connect to my maker. Well, for today, we're not actually going to cut this, right? So I'm going to go ahead and send it to my printer. And I'm not using my Canon, I am using my Epson, because this is the one that I have my sublimation ink in, because remember, regular printer ink is not going to work. Okay, so we want to take off the bleed, and we're going to use our system dialog box because I want to choose a higher quality of print. So then there's our little box that pops up, and we're going to select best and print. Okay, so before we hop over to the craft table, I want to design one more mason jar. This time we're using Infusible ink. And so I have this really pretty marbled, bright pink and orange Infusible ink pattern that is just going to work perfectly for this. So this is a cross-country coach, and there is a famous quote from an ultra marathoner where he says that there's magic in misery, and he says just ask any runner. And the fact that is very, very true. As a runner myself, that is very true. It hurts so much while you're running, and then it's great when you're done. So I thought this would be fun to put onto the mason jar. So what I did is I went into images. We're going to do this together. Go into images and into project type, and you have large mug designs and small mug designs. So I'm going to just grab the large mug design. And if you scroll through here, there's all kinds of designs, but of course we just really want the template. And so there are finishing edges to these templates. If you've been in here and worked with these before, there's a scalloped, there's a torn, there's a zigzag, there's a straight edge. I want to grab the scallop edge because there we go. Because whenever we put our design onto our mason jar, it's not going to close all the way. Because if you have worked with these before, you know that the mug press has a gap when it's closed of about 1 inch. And so what I want to do is I want to put my design on this element knowing that I need to close it in a pretty way because I'm going to have a small gap there in the back of my mason jar. Okay, so whenever I grab this, you see this little icon here, this lock? We're just going to unlock it. I've measured my mason jar with a fabric ruler, and it is roughly, we'll go into more right here, it is roughly 10 by 3.75, but we're just going to do it 3.5 because I don't want it to be too close to the bottom edge of that. Now, when you're looking at the 10, while you're on this design, you notice that it's actually measuring this longest element. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over into layers and I'm going to turn off that piece. And so now when I click on it, it's telling me that my scalloped element is really only 8.1. Well, it's 10 inches all the way around my mug or around my mason jar, and the gap is only about an inch. So I want to make this slightly longer. So if I go back up into more, and here I'm just going to do like 8.85. And then I'm going to lock it. Now this is going to fit around my mason jar. And what I want to do is I put this little piece together just mostly with text. This is American typewriter. And I did curve in Misery. The magic I actually took from a different design, used my contour tool to get rid of the elements that I didn't want. I'm going to put a link to the contour tool video that I have up above. So if you want to learn how to use it, it's super simple. Literally, you just click off of the things that you don't want to keep. And so now that I have all of those, what I want to do is I'm going to move it on top of my design. And so you can go into Arrange and then send it to the front, because right now I have it all attached. So I created it and I attached it. And so that now whenever I'm looking at it on here, I can move it around, and it's perfectly fine. So the next thing that you want to do now that you have these together, and you can go back in and turn back on, that element if you want. What we want to do is we want to grab our text, and we're going to grab these elements, the background element, and we'll go up into a line and center it horizontally. And then we want to go up into a line and center it vertically. And what this is going to do is make sure that you are dead center of your scallops, so you don't have to worry about anything being off. Now, once you have those two things done, you want to, again, make sure that you have all of those highlighted, all of the things highlighted. I'm just going to drag over it to make sure I have everything, and then I'm going to attach it. And when I did that, it turned it black. Don't worry about it. If you go over into pink, you can see that your design is right where it should be. And so it didn't do anything, except now when you cut it, it is going to cut out these letters. And so what we're going to do is we're going to end up keeping the bulk of this pattern, this real cool pattern that we're going to use, and it's going to knock out There is Magic and Misery. So our mason jar is white, so whenever we pop these all out, it will be white. So meaning that the letters will be white because you'll be able to see through to the mason jar. Okay, so now that we have all of that together, what I want to do is I'm going to turn this one off up here. Grab it real quick. We'll turn that off. So the only thing left on our mat is the design that we want to cut. So we're going to be using the maker, and we'll go ahead and hit make it. So now whenever you're on the mat, so this is for Infusible ink, this is also for sublimation, you always want to mirror your design. Okay, so now that we have that done, we are ready to continue. Okay, so now it's time to set our base material, and this is Infusible ink, and I already have it with the star, so it's in my favorites. But if you don't see it in your favorites, then browse all materials and just type in Infusible ink and it'll pop right up. Okay, so now we are going to be using just our regular blade, and so all of that is already in, and we are ready to hop over to the craft table and get all of this going. Okay, so starting with sublimation printing, this is the printer and the paper that we're going to use to print out our design, and I put that link up above for the video and links down below if you're not already doing sublimation printing and you want to check that out. Okay, so here we are back on the craft table, and this is my printout for what we just did. And then I have my heat tape, and I have my paper trimmer, I have my lint roller, I have my mason jar, which I'm really excited about trying, and then I'm going to probably do another mug as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut these out. I'm going to put two of these designs on one item and then one on the other. And I thought about it, guys. I'm not going to make this for myself. I'm going to make it for someone else. I need Teacher Appreciation Day gifts just like everybody else. And then, but I am going to have to come back and make myself one of these mason jars. These things are just too cute, and I'm putting links down below so that you can grab some of those for yourself. Okay, so let's go ahead and trim these out, and then we'll start attaching them to the mugs and to the mason jar with our heat tape. Okay, we're just gonna take our trimmer. I love my paper trimmer, and get off those excess areas. And then we'll just take scissors and cut in between these. Okay, and just for a reminder for anyone that is popping in to see the mason jar project, when you print sublimation paper, sublimation ink, it does not show up as bright as it's going to be whenever you apply heat to it. So it looks very muted right here, but it will brighten up beautifully once we apply heat. And I actually don't want this world's best teacher piece here, so I'm going to cut that out. And so now I have this element. I'm going to trim that off. Same here. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and prep our materials with our lint roller. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to take our lint roller and take the lid off, and we are going to make sure there's no lint, no specks, no dust on our substrate. And trust me, you want to use the lint roller, because I have accidentally pressed things before that have a little bit of lint on them, and then I'm so sad whenever I peel it off and whatever was on it also brings off the ink. Okay, so then we're going to take our heat resistant tape and we're going to put our designs onto each of these, and then we'll put them in the press. Starting with our mason jar, I am just going to put a pair of scissors here so that it doesn't roll on me, and I'm going to take my design, and remember we did a mirror image of this, so I'm going to flip it over, tape it down, and then I'm going to flip over and tape down the other side. Okay, and then I'm just going to flip that over. And you can always take a fabric measuring tape if you want to, and make sure that you're putting it in the exact same place or the exact correct location. And I can see here that I have about 1/2 of an inch from the bottom. Okay, and so now I've just eyeballed the center point of the other side. So I just looked from top down to see the top of my, you probably can't see it on camera, but I can see through the sublimation paper, and so I can sort of see the center of my apple and then know that this apple is lined up with it. And then I have roughly the same distance, about 1/2 inch from the bottom. So I'm just going to take another piece of tape and put that down. And then we're going to wrap this with our butcher paper. And it's recommended with the mug press that you use 3 layers of butcher paper so that you don't risk getting any ink on the inside of your machine. So I'm going to go with that. Okay, so we're just going to wrap that around. Now, one thing, guys, you're able to pick that mug up by the handle and not have heat, and be able to set that onto the EasyPress mat. With this, you're going to need either a heat resistant glove, or you're going to need a really great pot holder. And since I don't have a heat resistant glove today, I'm going to be using a pot holder. But basically, we're ready now to go ahead and put that into our mug press. Okay, so I'm just going to set that inside of my mug press. It is a snug fit, so just know that. I'm going to close the lid, and it started. Okay, so the mug press is done. Opened it up. And we're going to set that aside and let it cool. And now I want to take my other mug. I went ahead and put it down with heat tape. And so I just want to wrap that with parchment, and then we're going to put that in the mug press and see how that one comes out. Okay, when placing a mug into the mug press, just remember to center, make sure that your design is fully covered, and having your handle out. With the mason jar, I literally just knew that my designs were on either side of the tape, and so I placed it in knowing that it was pressing. So you don't want your design to ever be in this little slot here. Okay, so then we will place it down. Okay, and so our mug is done. So again, not hot. We just pull that out and put it on our mat. And in a minute or two, we'll do a full reveal. I say a minute or two. It takes about 15 minutes for them to cool completely, but we'll do a reveal of both designs. Okay, so while we're waiting on those two to cool, let's go ahead and do our infusible ink mason jar. So we have our mason jar, we have our lint roller, we have our infusible ink. This one is called Rainbow Watercolor, and it's actually going to be much more vibrant than this. It's just beautiful. We have our heat resistant tape. I have a pair of scissors, and I also have 3 layers of butcher paper. Now we're going to be using a green mat to cut this out on our maker, but you can cut out infusible ink on your Explore and on your Joy. Okay, so let's move this out of the way and go ahead and put our infusible ink on the mat. Okay, so I've decided to use my paper trimmer instead of scissors, and I need roughly a little bit more than my design, which is 3.5 long. So this is my 4-inch mark, and so what I want to do is about 3 3/4, and then I'm actually going to go ahead and just cut it the full 12, and then I'll be able to trim off the excess so that I don't waste that. So let's go ahead. Placing this on our mat, we want to make sure that we place it at the very edge, at the very corner. And I'm not going to use a scraping tool with infusible ink because I don't want to get any of my ink off before I get that pressed in place. So I'm just going to put it corner to corner, and then I'm going to press it down with my hands. Okay, so now let's go ahead and take this over to the maker and cut. Okay, so here we are back on the craft table, and I've cut out my design, and what I want to do is I want to peel my mat back and not my material. The mat can take it, but I don't want to mess up my design. So we pop that off, and now what we want to do is infusible ink. If you've not worked with it before, infusible ink, you really just crack and pop it off. So you're going to see this is already cut away because this is our template. So let's just pop that piece off. This is such a pretty design, isn't it? Okay, so we'll pop that out. Okay, and so now we have these little edge pieces. So you hear it, you kind of pop, pop, and then we have our design in the middle, and so we're just going to crackle and pop that and remove all of those. And my best advice to you guys is do it with your fingers if you can. And if you can't, then don't use a scraping tool really. I mean, I would maybe use the Cricut tweezers to get those out. But I would do a lot of it by hand if you can. And remember, we're going to see the white through the middle, so we're just taking out all the lettering. Now that I have my design weeded out, the very next thing I need to do is to clean my mason jar with a lint roller. And I got this cute little lint roller on Amazon. I'll put links down below in case anybody, I had a couple of people asking me about it in my last video. Super inexpensive, but really cute. And the reason you want to clean these guys is to make sure that you don't have any lint or anything on your mason jar, because once you apply the ink to it, when it comes off and the lint comes off, it would take your ink off as well. Okay, so make sure that you do this. This is something you want to do. Okay, so now that we have this all clean and ready to go, what we want to do is we want to take our design and we're going to wrap it face in around our mason jar. And we're going to take a fabric ruler and just make sure that we have it in the appropriate place all the way around. So it's going to be about 1/4 inch off the bottom, and then you can't, I don't know if you can tell it on camera, but it starts to curve right here. So I want to end right before that curve. And since there's no handle, I don't actually have to worry about where it closes on the back. I'll just have to worry about that when I get to my mug press. And the nice thing about using the template is you have these little sticky tabs. And so I'll just close. So if you look on the back of my mason jar now, you'll see this is where I'm going to want to make sure the open spot is on my mug press. So I'll have this little area that won't have anything on it, any design on it. And so now that I have that wrapped around, I can take my measuring tape and just make sure that's about 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch. And you can tell there's no bubbles in it, so it's about, you know, it's accurate. accurate all the way around. Okay, so let's go ahead now and take our butcher paper and our heat resistant tape and apply it to our design, because we want to make sure that we are protecting our mug press. And so we're going to cover the whole thing. So my best advice to you is to close your paper in the same gapped opening so that you know exactly where that is when you put it in the mug press, okay? So we'll just close that. Got a little bit of heat resistant tape. And I can see through that this is kind of the starting point for me, so I know that there is no ink in this area. Okay, so our mug press is hot, and now all we need to do is to pick up our mason jar, and again, I put the tape here, and I even put another little piece of tape here in case you can't see that through the camera lens, but this is where our gap is in design, and so now I'm going to place that inside of my mug press, and it is kind of a tight fit, but we want to make sure that the tape stays in the opening gap. So you see how I twisted it just a little bit, so it's right there. Put it all the way down, and then we're going to close our mug press. Okay, so our mug press is done. So we just lift our handle, and then we're going to take a pot holder, because remember, you don't have the mug handle, which would stay cool. This entire thing is hot. So now what we need to let that do is rest for 15 minutes, and then we will reveal this design as well. Okay, it's time for the big reveal. So both of these are cool, and we just remove the paper, put that out of the way, and then we remove the heat resistant tape. You wouldn't want to use any other kind of tape. Oh my goodness, how cute, guys. Oh my stars, I'm so excited. She is going to love this. Our school counselor is such a sweetheart, and she is absolutely going to love this. And so I'm gonna just peel off this other side really quickly. Look how darling. Oh my goodness. And so guys, what this means is that these mason jars work in the mug press. Yes! Okay, so let's go ahead and take off our Coach's mug. Now guys, if you don't have a sublimation printer yet, you can absolutely recreate these with Infusible ink. Pull that all the way around. And with Infusible ink, you're just going to have to layer. Well, I take that back. You will not layer. You will do multiple colors, but you will not layer them. You want to do it all at one press. Oh my goodness. Guys, that's adorable. Absolutely adorable. So you can do this with Infusible ink. You would just have to have, you know, the blue, the black, the yellow, and place each of those on there. And I will do a project for us in the next couple of videos so that I can show you how to do multiple colors with Infusible ink. Okay, so now it's time to reveal our Infusible ink mug. I'm gonna pull off. Oh my goodness. That is amazing and so pretty. Guys, it is so vibrant, and I'm really in love with this rainbow Infusible ink. Look how beautiful that is. And then on the close in the back, see, it looks perfectly fine. I mean, if you wanted to, you could always go back and put something there with Infusible ink pens, but you can't really repress the design. And candidly, I don't want to. I think it's absolutely gorgeous the way it is. Okay, so here's a closer look at all the things that we made today. So this is Infusible ink, sublimation, and what I love about these is that it's one more thing that I can make with my Cricut mug press. And not only are these adorable, but they come with these great little gift boxes. And then the Cricut mugs, the large ones, actually come with a great gift box as well. Okay, so what did you think? So that was pretty cool, right? So you can use mason jars in your Cricut mug press. You can use Infusible ink, the traditional way with Cricut, or you can use Sublimation to do this as well. And they both turned out beautifully, and I think they're gonna be amazing gifts for the teachers and coaches and counselors in our lives. And if you have any questions, I would love for you to put them down in the comments below. I want to help you learn to craft and enjoy doing it. And I put links down below to everything that I used here today, so I hope you'll hop down and take a look at those as well. All right, guys, I will see you next time.